What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
I just want to say thank you first and foremost for being a listener, for all the kind remarks we've received over Instagram, over reviews, and even just the analytics have been bumping. So it's great to see this podcast growing. So thank you to every single one of you for not only just tuning in, but also sharing with friends, leaving a review if you haven't already. All these tiny actions really do help us grow. And I know you can think like, oh, I'll just wait, someone else will do it, it'll be fine. But no, like you listening right now, if you take 2 seconds, even if there's someone you're like, yo, I think you'd like this podcast, share this episode, share an episode with them. And I think what's amazing is you're going to help them become fitter, healthier, happier, and more motivated. And I encourage you to keep tuning in, because even with my personal clients, all of them always say to me, the more I listen to the podcast, the more motivated I get during the week. So I really encourage you, make sure you're tuning in Mondays for Motivation Monday, Thursday for our breakdown of a specific topic, and also dig into some old episodes. There's some great gems out there, but for today, we are here to get motivated. We're here to get fired up. We got a nice large coffee here today. We're not playing around. Me and Kyle are actually going to go do a content super film today. So we're going to load up on some incredible YouTube videos, beef up our form repertoire of our library rather of amazing form exercises, doing some exercises we haven't done previously. And we're going to also beef up the free form guide, which is going to be huge. So if you haven't grabbed that already, make sure you grab that. If you want a free form guide, it's like over 80 exercises of how to do exercise correctly. I like to call it a personal trainer in your pocket. And you can always grab that totally free by messaging us on Instagram, just saying form guide to @ColossusFit, and we'll send that right over to you. But we're going to jump into our primary question today. And the primary question is, I find I'm in an awkward position where my arms and everything else are quite skinny, but my stomach is kind of large. How would you combat this?
So it's a great question, and this is something we actually refer to as a skinny fat physique. Now, everyone has one in different ways, shapes, and forms. Like if this is your situation, you might be someone who has a larger stomach, or some of you may just have like a slightly big stomach, but just really small arms and shoulders and chest and everything like that. So it's hard because this physique can be a little bit different depending on who you are and just, I guess, how big your belly is as well, right? But the main thing, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, is because based off of your situation, the tip and the most important thing will change. So if you're someone who is just potentially has a beer belly. Let's just say you've been drinking beer all your life, or maybe you haven't been drinking beer all your life, but it may look like it, and your arms are really skinny, your chest, it looks like you've never worked out, and you're just in a bit of an awkward situation. For someone like this, you're going to want to start cutting first. You're going to want to start to do a diet phase. You're going to want to clean up. You're going to want to count your calories, make sure you're eating less than you're burning per day. And that's going to be probably the best approach, just to kind of clean up, maybe lose 10, 15 pounds. And the truth is, most of that will probably come from your stomach. Now, if you're someone who's just in a bit more of an awkward situation, but it's not like your belly's too big, like you may just have a slightly bigger belly than you'd like, but you're in a position where you're just really skinny. And I can think of a lot of people who are like this because I've helped so many people who have been in this situation. One of the best things you can do is do a bit of a bulk, a bit more of a muscle gain phase. And as your arms get bigger, as your chest gets stronger and bigger, and your shoulders fill out and your legs, it'll actually end up working itself out where you're going to be really happy with your physique. So that's why I wanted to start with this first tip, because it's very situational based off of where you're at and how, your situation is. So you have to kind of ask, like, your first question is like, what's going to be my priority here? Is it going to be getting rid of the belly first and then bulking the arms and everything up? Or should I just start to bulk up a little bit and then let myself fill out as well? And a couple additional tips on this subject that are very important, that are so underrated, is simply eating more protein and just avoiding doing endless cardio. One of the biggest culprits for getting to this skinny fat physique is just simply doing too much cardio and doing too little strength training. That alone, obviously, aside from nutrition, is what causes a lot of people to have this physique that they're not happy with. And that's why we always talk about the importance of strength training, because so many people will diet well, they'll eat well, they'll try to do a little bit better, and they're just like, why do I look like this? Why am I not happy? It's because you're doing tons of bike riding and classes and all this other stuff, but you're not properly strength training. So that's going to be my main spiel. I know it can help a lot of you out, and I'm sure Josh has some other great tips as well.
Yeah, skinny fat is a really tough situation to be, because you're like, I want to take off my fat, but I also want to build muscle. And I think Kyle really hit it nicely on the head when he said, what is your first plan of attack? Because if you're someone, you're like, hey, I don't love my belly, but I really hate that I have tiny arms. Everyone's picking on me, calling me noodle arms, whatever it is. If that is what really annoys you, this is your opportunity to say, I'm going to start by just isolating the factor of gaining muscle, packing on some size, and I'm going to deal with that fat later. Whereas if you're like, hey, I'm sick of this stomach fat. I don't mind if I'm a little bit skinnier and leaner. I'm going to start there and build out of it. Then you can go ahead and begin with a deficit and you can begin taking off that fat. But I think it's really important you know what your plan of attack is. And absolutely, you can do both things at once. That is something that can absolutely be done, but you need to know what your primary goal is, because if you optimize for one over the other, you'll see a better return. Because if you really focus on gaining muscle, you might even gain a little bit of fat. You might have some fat come off, but it may not come off as aggressively as if you're directly like, I'm going to take off that fat. That's going to be my primary objective. And I'm really just going to aim to just lean into that and then worry about the muscle later. And of course, you should be doing both things at once. So like Kyle said, obviously optimizing your protein, so you're in a great position where you can maintain muscle as you diet down and also put on new muscle as you train harder. During this time, a lot of this can actually be solved in the gym, because chances are if you have this awkward physique, it's because you haven't been training very long or very hard to where you have a good muscular base. Because even in particular, guys can kind of get away with having a little bit of a barrel, as we like to call it, if you hold a lot of muscle, because you'll just look big, you'll just look jacked, you'll look good, right? Whereas a lot of times you have really skinny arms because you don't have much muscle, you don't have much history in the gym, and there's a great opportunity to combat that by actively just improving your composition and putting on that muscle. But ultimately, it's really important. You're not in a bulk. At most, you're at maintenance, if not in a slight deficit to a little bit of a more intense deficit. You're training hard. You're really addressing that volume. You're maintaining a good level of activity, so perhaps like a 10,000 steps or so. And you can start to actively combat this. And then you can see where you end and you can begin to pull and adjust levers from there. Because like I said, if you diet really hard and you're like, okay, now I'm just super skinny, you could enter a slight surplus. You go in a little bit of a bulk. You've taken care of that fat. You could put that on. And oftentimes when you have like a lot of visceral fat, that's the fat you don't want. You actually want to be storing fat in your legs. It's a healthier place to have it. And if you have a lot of that, it can be from stress, excess alcohol, lots of bad habits and bad eating. So actively combating that and beginning to improve your health gives you more opportunity and like a blank slate to build on that after. And just the same, if you focus on muscle, you focus on healthier eating, you come down to your maintenance, you're not in a surplus anymore, you will actively lose some fat while you put on some muscle. And like I said, there's 10 different levers I could pull for you as a coach, but it's really important you pull the right ones. And I'd love to be able to help you with that, of course, because I find this quite easy. And I find in particular, if this is your problem, this is the easiest solution, because you see results so quickly. You start to feel so good and you start to look so good, because it's not like you're morbidly obese or you're just like really insanely skinny. Like, you're going to notice pretty quick change and you'll be able to build and improve from that, which is absolutely amazing. But if you're going at this about yourself, I think the worst mistake you can do is teeter-totter, because a lot of people like this will say, I hate my stomach. They'll diet and they'll say, I'm skinny, and then they'll eat a bunch of food and then they'll gain more fat and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm back. My stomach's worse. I need to cut again. And then you're in this weird loop where you're seeing no progress and you're just feeding them the same mistakes. So you need to say, what's my starting point? After I achieve this, what's my next step? Once I achieve that, what's my next step? And you can get to a place where you could obviously maintain a good level of fitness and just steadily grow that. Or you can continue to do more of the traditional phases with bulking, cutting, maintaining, reverse dieting, all that great stuff.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to say that I really do believe this is actually one of the hardest physiques to have. And I say this because, first off, we've talked to a lot of people who have been in this situation. We hear their stories. We hear how they feel. We've obviously helped, I'd say, close to 1,000 people, like very similar to this. But when it comes down to it, you're very insecure with how you look with the shirt on, right? Because your arms are a little bit skinnier. You could tell maybe you don't lift and whatnot. And then when you take your shirt off, let's just say, and whether, you're at the beach or whatever the case is, then you're also unhappy and just, I guess you could say, don't have high confidence because you have a little bit of a stomach, right? So this is where like we love to help people just optimize, because their entire life changes, right? Their confidence. Like, I've seen people just consistently feel so much more confident and happier, and self-esteem is boosted in their quality of life just from improving this. But like Josh said, it's probably one of the hardest things to do for most people because of your emotional attachment. Same with body recompositions. Like, you just consistently make the wrong changes, you're emotionally attached, and it gets very, very tough. So we're going to run a case study to show you that it absolutely is possible. And we're going to help 3 to 4 of you who are looking to get rid of your skinny fat physique. And all you have to do is message us skinny fat to Instagram at ColossusFit. ColossusFit, and will absolutely change your life. But 3 other tips that I wanted to share as well that I think can benefit is just optimizing your sleep. I know we always talk about sleep, but you really need to make sure to have proper recovery within this process. So that's going to be very important. Documenting your progress, and I'm not saying just the scale, but photos, measurements, how much your strength training, your improvements in the gym will help so much. And then just giving it some time and being patient, because this isn't a process where it's just like you strip off body fat and it's like a very linear process. Like I said, there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, there's a lot of figuring out what you want and navigating. And so many people are just trying to rush the process and they don't give it enough time. So you really do have to be patient. So that's my last tip on the specific subject.
Awesome. So there you have it. Like I said, it'll be a lot faster, a lot less painful, and you'll just have clear, obvious thought, like know exactly the path you need to take if you work with us one-on-one. And like I said, you've seen some of the transformations. And if you haven't, I highly recommend you check out our Instagram at ColossusFit. We've taken people that I assure you are in a worse situation than you are now and help them build their dream body and just blow away what they thought they were able to achieve. So we'd love to do that for you. Just DM us Skinny Fat to make that happen. But now we're going to jump into our quotes of the week. So I'm going to start with my quote rather. I only have one quote this week, not my first quote. But my quote is, "Success isn't built in the spotlight." And I love this quote because it really just got me thinking, and you've probably heard this before, but if you really think about it, it's really exciting doing a really hard set when your friends are watching. It's really exciting making a good choice when everyone sees you, you're out at the restaurant or something, you're like, I'm going to eat healthy here. But if you go home and you're slamming bags of chips, that's not what's happening. So the real success is what you do in those moments in between. So it's when you wake up, are you waking up on time? Are you getting to the gym when no one's looking? Are you making those healthy decisions? Are you turning off the Netflix instead of doing that extra episode and losing the sleep? So it's really winning those moments, especially when people aren't looking, because it can be hard enough when people are looking. Like even with peer pressure, it can be a little bit of a challenge, right? If everyone's saying, oh, just do it, it's fine, don't worry, you're going to be good to have this one drink or to eat this extra food or just have dessert. But when you stick your path and you make those sacrifices and you have those decisions where you say, no, I'm going to build success, especially when no one's looking, that's how it's done. Because like I said, when you're training by yourself, are you skipping reps? Are you getting a lighter weight? Are you skipping exercises? Are you doing any of these things? So it's a great reminder to ask yourself just to be true. And if you like that accountability, if you're like, oh, when people are watching me or people know what's going on, I do way better. It's a great reminder to just have that vision for yourself and just say, like, would my coach or would Coach Josh be disappointed in me if he saw this set? If you're stopping 5 reps short, I just want you to think of me there scorning you and forcing you to do those last few reps, right? So I just thought it was a great reminder. And I think even just doing these things time in, time out, especially the things people don't see, is really being like a mover for me and with what I've done. So it's a great reminder. And I just think in general, it's like, you need to win those moments when no one's looking. You need to be consistent. You need to do them day in, day out. It's not a one-day massive action. So I love this quote and I was happy to share it.
Honestly, a lot of the progress just really comes from the behind the scenes work, right? And that's something so many people just really struggle with is, just not putting in that work when it's just like a lot more challenging. And I thought that was a great quote. My quote for today is, knowledge is not power, it's potential power. Knowledge is not mastery, execution is mastery. So I really like this because it's something I'm such a fan of. And I know a lot of people, they know what to do, right? You just need to do it. And that's the hardest part, is the execution form. Like I know so many, and maybe some of you can relate to this as well. Like you understand you need to be in a deficit, you understand you need to be training, but you may not do it, right? And there's just a lot of experts out there who have built up and they've read books and they've listened to podcasts and read forums, but they just don't execute. And I'll never forget this principle I heard years ago. It's called the KSE principle. I haven't mentioned it in a while, but it's just knowledge, strategy, execution. And that last portion, the E, the execution, is the part where most people don't end up. Like they have all the knowledge from the books, from everything. They've come out with a game plan, right? So you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. Here's my macros. Here's what we're going to do. And then when it comes down to the execution, there's nothing. So yeah, it's a good reminder, like the people who are the ones executing, even if they have slightly less knowledge, maybe a bit of a worse game plan and strategy, those are the ones that are going to see the most amount of success, right? So don't be that person. I know so many of them in my life who have just been like, I've read 200 books on building a business and it's like, all right, what's going on? How you doing? And they're like, oh, I haven't started that yet. And it's like, anything can apply to this, right? So just don't be that person. Knowledge is only power when it's actually applied. So that's my quote for today.
Yeah, that's a killer quote, and I really like this variant of it. I remember at the gym we used to go to in Toronto, Fortis Fitness, they had knowledge is power only when applied. Like they had that up on the wall before you go in, which I thought was so cool, and it really stuck with me. And in general, yeah, I think literally anyone in the world knows how to get fit. Like truly anyone at this point, they're like, okay, I need to eat healthier, I need to train more, I need to rest. It's just so funny how lost people get in between that. And at the same time too, it's funny, like a lot of motivational videos, people comment, they're like, hey, if you're just watching motivational videos all day and you're not doing anything, this isn't what you want. Like this is just going to make you feel good, right? So that's not what you want either. And the same with this podcast, we really encourage you, don't just know what to do, don't just listen to us, but actually go out and execute it. And what I think's so good is like, continually listening to these things is like a good safety, if you will. So it's an extra like fail safe for you in your journey. And I was talking to Kyle about this because very similar to fitness is finance, and we like reading finance books. And it's funny how even just recently, like markets pummeled, right? And I've always known, right? Like one of my all-time favorite quotes, so I guess I do have a second quote, is be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. So when things drop, most people end up losing money because they sell everything, they panic out, they get worried, and they don't want to buy because everything's cheap, and it's really tough. And I know this. I've read 18 different books that have told me this. I've been through a few market cycles now, but even in that moment, it's funny, me and Kyle were talking, we're like, oh, it's just so tempting to sell. I think it's going to keep going down, but we know better. We know not to do that, right? So we didn't do it, kept buying during that time, and now we've seen a big rebound. And of course, who knows what will happen. But once again, when you follow these things and you listen to this podcast and you hear us reminding you the importance of protein, it's going to help you actually hit your protein, right? But it's really important you actually go out and you execute on it. And just the same, if you're not executing on the knowledge you know you have, it's really important you get a coach. And I say this all the time, and it's funny, I'd say 10 to 20% of our coaching program are personal trainers or coaches themselves or other professionals, either doctors, chiropractors. We have a whole suite of different professionals because it's not just about knowing what to do. It's actually about getting out and doing it, being accountable to doing it consistently. And it's almost worse sometimes when you know what to do, because sometimes you like overlook just implementation or the simplicity of it. And that's where having a coach is so truly amazing, because it really holds your hand to that. And even what we said earlier about like success in the spotlight, for us with our coaching program, the way it works is we have you filling out your spreadsheet daily. So you're putting your macros in there, you're putting other data so I can see your energy levels, so I can know how your food's affecting you, your workout intensity, as well as your weigh-ins. And this gives me all the data I need to make meaningful changes to make sure you're on your path. So when you check in with me every week, we do a video check-in back and forth. I'll know what's going on, and I can read between those numbers. And I'm not there to make anyone feel horrible or to guilt you or anything like that, but I'm there to help you succeed. And even them knowing Coach Josh is looking at this, he's reviewing it, we're gonna have to talk about it. That little fail safe is like, it makes him feel like I made a better decision because I knew you were looking. I didn't want to mess up my week. I want to be held accountable to this goal. Like, you're announcing that goal. You're forcing accountability towards that goal, which is so instrumental. And even for myself, I fill out a spreadsheet daily. I've been lifting over 10 years. I'm not too good for it. And I think what's really tough with knowledge is people will get such an ego where they'll feel I know everything, so I don't need any accountability or help with it. But that's not true at all. I'm still consistently learning. Like, it's absolutely humbling. And I think the worst in a really tough group, and I apologize if this is you, but people that newly get their personal training certificate, they'll do a weekend course, they'll get really fired up, they'll learn a bunch of knowledge at once, which is absolutely phenomenal. And they'll feel like they know everything, and they'll get this really false sense of confidence. But it's incredibly humbling. The more you go on, the more you learn, and the more you realize, wow, there's so much more to learn, right? And that's where you always need to be soaking it up, and you need to remove that ego and be willing to learn, willing to be coached, willing to be held accountable, and willing to invest in yourself. And that's why me and Kyle will jump on any opportunity we have to learn, improve our skill set, to improve our knowledge. Any book, any seminar, anything we can do, we're going to attend because we want to keep growing. So I know I kind of added on, but I guess that gets into our thoughts. Is like, it's really important you remove that kind of veil, I guess, of security of like, I know everything, so I don't need accountability. Like, if anything, it's nice to even have that reassurance. And one other component I want to say that's just so instrumental is removing the emotion from it. I know for myself a lot of the time what to do, similar to this investing example. I know. But the emotion of it is I see my bank account draining. I see myself getting poorer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to save it. Emotion isn't often reasonable. And that's where having someone to say, no, you're not doing that, right? Especially if you don't have the best willpower is so huge. And it's the same with fitness, because as a coach, I'll diet sometimes. I'm human like everyone else. I'll look in the mirror. The mirror will look weird one time and I'm gonna be like, I'm looking too skinny. I'm losing my muscle. I should bulk. I've been doing this long enough. I know not to, and I'll talk with Kyle and we'll stick to our plans. But that's where people will go wrong. They'll just teeter-totter because of emotion. Whereas when that's removed, and even I have clients that are like, this isn't working. Let's cut calories 500. I didn't lose weight this week. I'm like, chill. Just let's let the week go through and look at the average, and then boom, you'll get a whoosh. You'll get like a bowel movement. You'll get like just things will settle out. You drink more water, whatever, and you'll see weight come down 4 pounds. Like, okay, I'm glad I didn't starve myself, because had they starved themselves, they'd be in the cycle where they'd then be so starved they'll end up binging. And like you can see how you can just take a wrong corner just because of one emotional like just crazy overreaction. So I know I popped off a little bit on that, but that's the thing. Like, knowledge is good when applied, and it's even better when you're held accountable to it and you have support around that. And you always want to be evolving your skill set and your education with that knowledge. So don't just see, I learned it, that's final. There's no altering that. Like, I would start half squatting if it could be proven that it was more advantageous and the competition switched to that for reference. It's not, but I'm just getting you, like, you don't want to be so entrenched in these beliefs that you're not actually developing or progressing.
Yeah, so well said. And that ego thing will kill some people, like not actually, but will really hold people back. It's funny. The other day I was using my Fitness Pal. I was tracking. I don't remember who it was, but they're just like, you still use that thing? And I'm like, yeah, it's been a long time. But for me, I actually find it easier. But it's like, even the times where I've actually like gotten rid of something like this, because I'm like, well, I know everything. Like, I'm good to go. Like, I eat the same stuff. I'm totally cool. I would calculate things afterwards, and then I'd be at like 150 grams of protein, which is, nothing crazy low, but it's 30 grams less than what I'm aiming for. Or like I would eyeball things a lot more, and then I would end up realizing, man, I'm not in my maintenance, or I'm not in a deficit. So it's like these small things that a lot of people will overlook and just think they're better than. I just think it really, really hurts them on their journey. So don't be that person. That was so well said by Josh. And that's all I really have for this week. I'm really excited for content. So I think I planned maybe 15 reels, and I'm just like, I'm ready to just go. As soon as we finish these podcasts, we're heading out, we're going to the gym, we're going to get some killer stuff planned. So I'm like, I get so excited to create content, and I do go through waves, right? There was a bit of a wave where I was like, oh man, I can't think of anything. Like, my brain just wasn't working the way it would. But now I'm just like, all right, it's go time. Let's create some killer content. So if you're not following us on Instagram at ColossusFit, you're going to be missing out, because we got some killer stuff planned as well.
Yeah, now we're going to jump into our client shout out, and that is my client, Andrew Devers. He has been crushing it, which has been absolutely amazing. And what I love was, before he started coaching, he started 75 hard. And we always put an asterisk with 75 hard. We're like, hey, it's really intense. Theoretically, it's amazing should you stick to it, but a lot of people do fail and fall off and really have trouble transitioning out. Pretty much anyone I know who's even done it has gained all the weight back. But Andrew reached out with, I believe, about a month left in 75 hard, or a couple of weeks, whatever it may be. And he really wanted to stress, like, he wants to transition out. He's lost a ton of weight, a ton of weight. I need to get in the specific numbers, but we'll share his transformation on our Instagram, which is going to be absolutely amazing. And I'm just really proud of him for having that mindset. And it's been great seeing him continue to progress. It's been amazing. We just tested our PRs and we hit some amazing, crazy PRs at an all-time light weight. Used to be an athlete back in school and absolutely crushed that. I was a really strong dude. So it's been absolutely amazing to see the lifts just continue to come up as weight goes down. And we're just getting started. And with these massive weight loss journeys where you're losing 50 plus pounds, there's a lot that goes into it, and it starts pretty easy. If you really make that commitment of a new identity, it's very easy to lose weight if you're very overweight, because you're so overweight. It's really easy to see that change. It's like if you're super skinny and you actually just start eating a surplus of 1,000 calories, you'll see amazing change. But even with him, and where it gets really technical, is as you get really down there, you need to put in so much more intention and focus and energy to actually transition out of it, enter a reverse diet, improve composition, keep energy up. And when your body sees such radical changes, you can really see radical changes in the opposite direction. So I really want to shout him out for making that commitment, taking that jump, signing up for coaching and having that accountability. And we have just continued to progress, which has been absolutely amazing. In fact, I'm actually going to pull up his sheet right in front of me, which is amazing. So when he came in, he was 254. We're now 13 weeks later at 227, which is absolutely crazy. So we're nearing on 30 pounds in 13 weeks, which is absolutely nuts. The physique is looking insane. We're putting on muscle while losing fat. Like even just seeing his measurements, it has blown me away consistently. Seeing his arms get bigger, just seeing the progress in the chest getting bigger, seeing the waist come down, and really just seeing growth while losing so much weight. So that's what it's all about. It's about, like I said, balancing all these factors with any transformation. I really want to commend him for not only succeeding with 75 Hard, but transitioning into coaching, really looking to take it to a more sustainable, healthy approach where he can enjoy fancy like barbecues with friends, have a few drinks, finish his master's. So big shout out to Andrew. And what's really cool is Andrew said he's listened through, I believe, 400 episodes now. He started at the start, and it cracked me up so much. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. I told him something about my Greek yogurt in like one of our video check-ins, and he said, "Hey, no spoilers. I'm still early on in the podcast when you're on your oatmeal phase." And I thought it was the funniest thing because he's going through it chronologically, and for it to be a spoiler that I switched to Greek yogurt really cracked me up. But any of you who listened through, I guess, from the start will absolutely understand that, which I think is absolutely jokes. And I'm like, hey man, since you're powering through the podcast, I think he said like 100 episodes a month or something like that. I asked him some questions. I'm like, what do you like? What could be improved? Is there any segments you'd want to add? So he actually had mentioned that he thought it'd be really cool to add a segment that we're actually going to do in just a sec, but I'm just going to finish out the shout out story. So big shout out to Andrew. Check out his transformation on our Instagram. We're just getting started. His physique is going to look insane. We're really in the muscle building, composition building phase now that all that fat's taken off. So it's going to be insane. I can't wait to update it, but be sure to give him some love because he's been dialed in. He's radically changed his identity. He's seeing killer results, and you can see that on our Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusFit. But the segment he recommended adding, which we're going to try out, which I think is really cool, is what's making us happy this week. And I think that's an awesome thing because this is fit, healthy, happy. And sometimes it's hard to quantify happiness with a question. And I do believe you become happier when you're living your vision, when you're getting fitter, when you're getting healthier. I totally believe that. But I also think happiness is found in the little moments. So I think it's a fun challenge. I think it's a good reflection for me and Kyle to say, hey, what makes us happy this week? And for me, what immediately came to mind when I was driving over here, I was feeling a little rushed for no reason because I actually wasn't rushed. And I was driving and I'm like, oh, this traffic, it wasn't bad or anything, but I was just thinking, oh, I want to go. And then there's a light near Kyle's house. It just takes forever for some reason. I'm like, you know what? This is my life right now. Like I need to stop trying to speed to where I'm filming the podcast. Like I need to enjoy being at this light. I was listening to music. There was no like kids screaming in the background or something. I'm like, this is life, this present moment. It really reminded me to be present, enjoy those little moments. This morning I had a lot of fun like playing dinosaurs with my sons, which was hilarious, and showing him like T-Rex noises. So I think it's a great reminder. And I think what made me the happiest this week was when I was present. I stopped trying to like move to that next thing and like look too far ahead, but just really be present and where you're at. And one cool tip I heard for this, especially when you're driving, is to like feel the little etchings of the leather in your steering wheel or your car or whatever, just to remind you like when you're driving, instead of like trying to do a million things, and even people that instantly whip out their phones at light, just like be present, be alone in your thoughts, be happy. So I like the segment, and that's what made me happy this week. I'm curious what Kyle has.
Yeah, it's funny because mine's like similar in a different way, right? It's just that presence. I feel like anytime I am, like even if I go on a hike, if I'm thinking of a million things, I'm not going to be happy during that hike. But if I'm like just present with the family, with the dogs, with like, you know, the surroundings around me, I'm like, I'm in such a better spot. But that's kind of like my thing is, especially just like my daughter's 6 months now. So it's been really fun just to like sit there and just like smile at her, make different faces, and just like she's very reactive now, which is like super awesome. So that's been like very, very fun. But also like on that note, it's like it's only fun if I'm actually there, right? If I'm just like thinking of all the content and doing everything and trying to multitask at the same time, like it's not going to be as enjoyable for her or myself. Maybe it'll still be fun for her at this stage as well, but that's been really enjoyable. And just like as the weather has been getting nicer, I've been trying to go on like hour-long walks every afternoon when I'm feeling a little bit more like fatigued and I want to kind of get some more energy for the rest of the day. So even yesterday I went on a nice hour-long walk with the family, with the dogs, like, right by the water. And I'm just like, it just makes me so happy, honestly, because it's like, it's just so nice out, right? And it's just like being able to take in all that, just niceness, I guess you could say. But once again, the main theme of this is being present, which sometimes I can struggle with as my mind's always going a million miles a second. And then the other thing I was thinking of this morning, preparing for this segment, is just like, being able to do this, right? Like, it's a Wednesday. We're super excited to go film content. We're heading out, got an Airbnb, going to the gym, going to be there for a few hours. Like, if you were to say 10 years ago, this would be my life, I'd be like, man, there's no way. Like, and sometimes I'll drive past people who are doing the job that I was supposed to be doing. And I'm just like, that, to me, that wasn't fun. Whereas this is like a lot of fun, obviously a lot of work at the same time. So that's just what's making me happy, at least currently. And I'm sure it will continuously make me happy, but I like this segment. And our challenge for you is just to take a few seconds, grab a pen and paper, sit with nothing, whatever it is that you want to do, and think about what it is that's making you happy and do more of it. So I really like that part.
Yeah, it's funny Kyle had that thought, because even me, I'm like, okay, I got to get all this content. I was like all thinking about it, and then I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky I'm able to do this. And like, even I love this podcast because it's helping you yourself become fitter, healthier, and happier, and just spreading good energy, good motivation, good thought, which is absolutely amazing. And I remember, like, in the past, I would work like 3 jobs while trying to grow this business, and like waking up like 4 a.m. to go to a loading dock, and like I was scrubbing like the grime off a fountain for a while, and I'm like, oh, this is brutal. So it's definitely really cool to have that opportunity. So once again, big shout out to you for being a listener, allowing us to do this. It really means a lot to us. So thank you. And now we're going to jump into our second question, which is, I'm curious what the best piece of advice you have for being motivated is. Anything that stands out to you. And I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately, so I'll just dive in quickly. And I know I say it all the time, you can't rely on motivation, you should rely on discipline. But I do think there's little things you can do to inject motivation. And I think the best piece of advice I could ever give is just building momentum. When you have momentum, it's just so easy. I think it's just very hard to, like, when you're moving, like, think of your car. The faster I move, if I'm going like 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers, it's going to be very hard to stop, right? And when you have momentum, it's very much the same. And you can have positive momentum or negative momentum. If every single night you're eating like crap and you don't go to the gym, it's so hard to one day just say, I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to go to the gym, right? So that's where you need to win those small battles. You need to do it day in, day out. And I feel like I'm the most motivated when I'm the most aligned with like my goals, my vision, what I want to be doing. Like, when you build that, it becomes easy. And I think there's no better feeling when you're just knocking down days. You're getting done what you want to get done. You're progressing, you're reading, you're well slept. Like, it's just the best feeling in the world. And when you live so like asymmetrical to that, it's a horrible feeling. You just feel like you should be doing more. You just feel wrong. So I think if you want to get motivated, you just got to live it. You got to do those decisions. You got to do those things even when you don't want to do them, because ultimately that is what really drives you forward. That's what helps you feel better. And then obviously there's little things you can do in between to help that happen. Like, I like a motivational video in the morning. I like caffeine quite a lot. Caffeine is always a good tool. And I think more than anything, like a good sleep. But I'm sure Kyle has more like tangible answers. But for me, momentum is everything. When you get momentum, it's just the best. Even volleyball, when we play volleyball, it's hilarious. We'll be destroying a team. It'll be like 15-2 or something. The other team will start to get momentum, and it's just amazing how things fall apart, right? You could have that negative momentum on our side, but when you're going, and that's why in basketball in the NBA, like when a team's cooking and they're getting like crazy points, they'll call a timeout because they want to stop that momentum. So just the same, you want to be that like freight train in your own life where you're just charging through. You have so much momentum, nothing can break you. One bad day doesn't really slow you down. You just keep going on that vision, and that's how you build discipline. Just doing those things when you don't want to do them, getting them done anyways.
Yeah, so well said. And I think one of the most important things for me is just like finding your deep why. So obviously motivation comes and goes, but when you have that like deep why and you consistently think about it, you write it down, it's on your wallpaper, like you sometimes, dream about it when you're sleeping, it makes such a big difference. And you can do a bunch of different tasks and I guess projects to figure out what your deep why is. But the biggest thing is just like asking yourself, why do I want something, right? I know that's like very surface level and very simple to do. But at the same time, if let's say you're 50 pounds overweight and you need to lose weight, one person just wants to feel a little bit better and look a bit better, and like that's like as far as they've gotten within their why. And then the other person thinks of their grandchildren, walking their child down the aisle. They think of trying to get to a certain age in life, and then they think of like hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, like all these things, like their deep why. That person will be more motivated as long as, you know, their actions follow, but it'll be a lot easier for their actions to follow when they're consistently thinking about that. And anytime I've set out to do something, when my why is deep, I've always been more motivated. I've always been more disciplined. And I think a lot of people just don't spend that time thinking about it because it's hard. Like sometimes it's hard to take that time to sit down with yourself, to ask yourself the tougher questions. And I guess one of the easiest ways to do this, it's called 7 layers deep. But just sit down with yourself, start with like what it is that you want to do, and then ask yourself why 7 times. So if you say, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds, and then you ask why, you go into there. You start saying, because I want to feel better. Why? Because I want to feel better because my children need a better parent that can have more energy. Why? Because I love my children. I want them to have a great upbringing. And then you just keep going deeper and deeper. You're going to be so much more motivated. And even with that, one last thing is I'll never forget the motivational videos from like David Goggins, where he said, when you get to the end of your life, there's all these things that you should have done and accomplished. And I would never want to be that person to just be like, I never accomplished any of that. So it's like, there's a list of things, you know, hiked this, lost this amount of weight, you know, had these great relationships, built this amazing business. And I get to the end and it's just like, they're like, wait, I didn't do any of that. Like, that's not me. So I want to be able to get to the end and there's just like a list of things, and I've been the best version of myself and I've pushed myself, and I'm just super inspired by like the long-term, like thinking of my future self. So that's the main thing that motivates me. And when I set goals that are 3 years from now, 5 years from now, even if it's not perfect, it really pushes me. And that's something that's on my mind.
Awesome. And now we're going to go into our third and final question. What's better, online coaching or personal training? I've been training 1 year now and seem to have a good flow with my form, but just struggle with seeing results.
Great question. And this kind of was inspired actually yesterday when I was at the gym. I noticed someone being personally trained. Actually, every person that was being personally trained at Good Life Fitness, they were all engaged in heavy conversations with their training. I'm not talking just between sets, but during their reps. I saw maybe 20 reps left in the tank and they were consistently talking. It was almost like having a friend. And hey, if that pushes you to get to the gym, that's okay. But at the same time, I used to be a trainer. We did many, many years from, I was there sometimes 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. training. I had some friends, I counted reps, and it was good to push people. But at the same time, especially for this individual, if your form's good, like you're much better off with online coaching. And I'm not just saying this because that's what I do, but it's what I truly believe in. And what I truly believe in is what I do. And that's why I feel so fulfilled every single day. It's being able to help more people. It's being able to actually support people. And I could go off for a 20-minute segment right now, but at the same time, when it comes down to personal training, it usually ends up being $100 to $200 an hour. There's no nutritional support. You have someone that does hold you accountable, don't get me wrong, when it comes to going to the gym, but that's about it. You have a glorified rep counter, and I just think a lot of people are misguided because they're showing up. Yes, you may get a bit stronger, you may feel a bit better, but they're always asking, why am I not getting the results that our clients are getting? Like, we see people in the gym with a trainer maybe 1-2 times a week, and they specifically have come up to us many times and said, like, how did Taylor get that transformation? Like, I've been going to the gym just as long as her and I don't see any of that. And it's like, well, there's a lot more than that. We're focused on habits. We check in with you consistently. So it's like there's so much involved there. But like, what I will say is, like, not all online coaching is for everyone, right? Like, our online coaching is for you. I 100% can guarantee that. There's a lot of online coaches out there who have been training for 3 months and they've helped one friend and they think that they know everything and they're promoting it. So you kind of have to be careful with who you go with. So I do know I bash personal training quite a bit, but it's just, to me personally, I think most people, as long as you have the fundamentals down and you can get yourself into the gym, online coaching will be a much better option for 98%+ of people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of personal trainers have really good intentions, and having done it myself, it's amazing. They're really great trainers. There are amazing trainers out there, 100%. I just think they're far and in between, especially at chain gyms. There's a lot of turnover. Like I said, most personal training certifications are a 1-day course, which is absolutely crazy, right? Like, and a lot of it is lived experience, of course. And I think what's hard is personal trainers kind of get beat down. It's a tough industry because you have someone who's coming in looking to achieve a goal, but also it becomes very social. You really get to know that person. Oftentimes they'll talk to you about their life, they'll talk about their spouse, they'll talk to you about their problems. And it's hard. It's hard doing that and actually motivating someone to lift 8 hours a day. It really takes quite a lot out of you. And I think because of that, you'll see some trainers just get a little complacent, unfortunately. And I think it's almost natural after a few years, right? It's hard to have that spark. I think some people are so invigorated and they're truly extroverts and they just love extroverts, sorry. And they really love just talking all day, motivating people, fitness, training one-on-one. And that's a good coach to have. But unfortunately, I do think a lot of people are just collecting that check, talking to people. To them, it's like easier to talk. Like I remember, it's even off-putting as a trainer because I love training. So I think I'd tell clients like, okay, we're gonna pause this combo, let's do another set, and they'd be kind of thrown off because we'd be mid-combo. But what's hard too is, and I've heard other personal trainers are like, hey, my clients don't want to continue with me, and they're mad they didn't see results, but I was doing what they wanted. We talked, we were friendly. But it's funny because we're smart. Like human beings are so smart. So I always joke that the body's smart in exercise. There's a reason we do things like curve our back in a deadlift. It's like trying just to get the weight up, right? It's not trying to do it in the healthiest, safest way. It's just trying to lift the weight, right? And that's where it'll recruit muscles that perhaps it shouldn't, or you'll cheat with your form and you'll swing, use momentum, things like that. And just the same, like naturally, if someone isn't fit and they're paying me to get fit, subconsciously they're going to try and make it easier on themselves. Talking is way easier than me making you push a sled or flip a tire or do a crazy hard set. It's natural, right? You're going to try and cut little corners, if you will. Whereas and what's hard with that too is you don't actually truly learn a lot of the time because you have that crutch of someone always doing your form, always setting up your weight. I remember someone said, hey, I don't know how to really set up a barbell because my trainer's always done it for me. And I'm like, oh, that's not a good thing because your trainer might not always be there and it's so much more expensive. And that's why I really believe in online fitness coaching because it's way more reasonable. You can really get access whenever you need it. You're getting a lot more outside support, like Kyle said, with nutrition. And it's just so much cheaper because obviously you're not spending 5 hours with someone throughout that week. And scheduling wise, it's just better. Like life happens. Like you should go to the gym when you want to go to the gym, learn to do the movements, obviously record them, maximize for that. So it's just a much more optimal way of doing it. And that's why I'm really big on online coaching and even form check wise. Like I said, I can address all that for you, which is amazing. And having done both, like I really truly believe in online coaching. And I mean, we have over 5,000 transformations for a reason. I'm really proud of that, which is absolutely amazing. Whereas my PT transformations were a lot less. And I found too, because of that friendly report, people would come into my training sessions as a personal trainer. And I remember distinctly, I'd say, how was the weekend? Do you crush your eating? We planned for this, everything. They'd go, nope, went crazy, but that's why I'm here in the gym with you. Let's work it off. And you get this weird thing where it's like, you're just going to come in and I'm just going to beat you up in the gym and it's going to fix everything. But it's not. Like, that's not sustainable. And it's not addressing the root of the issue. And I think you'll see personal trainers check out because they have this frustration where they're not seeing that change and these people just want to be social with them. And it's hard, right? And like, even if you're like, I wouldn't do that, maybe subconsciously you will. So I think it's just something to consider. And that's where I think you can get a lot more just going the coaching route.
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, hey, I firmly believe it, and I just like I'm so passionate about this one, especially because like even for us, we did have to make a lot of adjustments when we were in-person trainers. So I remember I would always check people's MyFitnessPal whenever they walked into the gym because I'm like, these people are training hard, but it's just like there needs to be so much more. And we actually started doing a hybrid like early on where we'd include check-ins, we'd give them spreadsheets, we'd do MyFitnessPal stuff because we're like, if someone's just coming to us 1 to 3 times per week and that's all they're doing, it's really going to be hard to make the progress that most people want. And sometimes I'll ask people who have trainers, especially because a lot of times they'll have one and then they'll reach out to us and say, hey, I'm not seeing results. Like, can you help me? And they'll often say like, well, I go 1 time a week and I never hear from my coach or my trainer because it's more so them. the trainer is just there for you for that hour, whereas most of the time, like, there should be a lot more. I'm there for you 24/7. Any questions, if you're traveling next week, I'll reach out to you, I'll prepare things for you. So it's like it just makes a lot more sense. So I hear a lot of bad stories, unfortunately, a lot of people struggling, and that's why I'm just so passionate about this one. But like I said, we guarantee results. There's no risk involved. You can be anywhere in the world, no matter what time zone, and we will be able to help support you. And if you are someone who's struggling with skinny fat, just make sure to message us on Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusUSFit, with the keyword. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you being here. We'll see you in the next episode.